For the first time this spring, we've got the fearsome foursome all together here. Jordan Moore, Sean Cody Kessler, Keely Yore here. Little football roundtable. I wanted to do a little offensive preview for those out there. Half the time I feel like I need the previews with so much the changes from year to year. But let's start with the offense and the quarterback position. Jaden Mayava, Cody, needs to get better. Where to take USC to where it wants to go?
Yeah, if you guys want to watch a full preview, check out the Victory podcast.
Boom.
We did one of those as well. But yeah, it's been the story since Jaden took over was protect the football, no one to make the superhero play, no one to go down with the ball, and don't make a bad play worse. But the biggest thing for me outside of that is just getting on the same page with Mekhi Lemon, with Jacoby Lane, but also building that confidence. You could tell last year there were times that he wasn't really feeling like he was the guy, right? When you watch the TV copy, you can see the quarterback's eyes. And I'm not saying that, he was out there nervous and worried, but there were times when it just didn't feel like he had the confidence of the starting quarterback at USC. And it's tough when you take over mid-year and you're not the guy from the beginning, right? And Miller Moss was a starter for the first half of the season, the first 8 games of the season, and then Jaden takes over, and it's tough to kind of assert yourself as a leader, right, when you've been the backup the whole time. But what that looks like for me this spring is let Jaden get every rep with the ones. Every time Mekhi Lemon's up or Jacoby Lane's up on one-on-ones, you step up and you go, right? Until Hassan Longstreet or Sam Hewer can push you to be the starter, you take all those reps as a one, you walk around like you're the starter, you treat every practice, every meeting that way, and then that will start to transition into game day. And obviously, it's going to be a long time until then, but I just want to see him take that next step as a leader on this football team.
I thought it was pretty interesting. Both Coach Riley and Mayava were pretty candid at the start of spring camp about the mental game of how that needs to improve for Mayava. That almost hinders him a little bit. Cody, you've talked about it before about how he looks a little hesitant out there, and that ultimately is going to affect you as a quarterback. But it was funny. Riley said he's a guy who I'm not worried about that he's going to work. He's not going to want to work. He's not going to want to improve. He almost wants to do that too much where it gets in his way. So I think both of them admitted, you know what, I need to be a little bit kinder to myself and let myself grow in this role now that, he's more of a QB1 in this.
Yeah, it was, a very interesting year for him. You go from, not playing and kind of watching Miller and then the struggles that happened there, and then you had to come in. So, as a player who, wasn't a quarterback, and you want to follow your quarterback on a team, and the team was kind of in flux the whole year, right? Yeah. Who do we follow? Who's our leader? And then, Jaden, now he has to be the leader, and it's hard to kind of, I think, capture the hearts of all the players when you're kind of thrust into that position. So I think he has a whole off season now to do those kind of things. I'm sure he's got to work on those leadership qualities, but it was an interesting place to be in, and I think he handled it well. But I want to see that leadership aspect grow as he furthers his career.
And it was very subtle, but I caught it when Prince came in and said, Jaden grabbed me right away, and he's been helping me the most with the offense. And he noticed him as a leader. And as a former quarterback, I heard that and said, okay, well, that's something he took a next step for this year. That's big to hear. I know it's something little, and then it was a kind of small comment by him, but I promise you that's going to pay off in the season.
Keely, the best player on this offense last year was undoubtedly Woody Marks. And so you have to replace him. It has become something kind of commonplace in the Lincoln Riley era. They did bring in 2 transfer running backs. We talked to one of them in Wayman Jordan. There's also Eli Sanders, who's a productive college back who's come in. But in this case, we got to see Brian Jackson and really liked what we saw from him, too, in the Vegas Bowl. How do you size up the running back room?
It's interesting. You have a guy who, he talked about it at the start of camp, in Brian Jackson, who was the new guy last year, and now he's like, I'm kind of the vet. He was talking about he's in this weird transition where he's still relatively young, but you have 2 new transfers who are older that he's kind of showing the Trojan way a little bit. Yeah. But I think all of them have all talked about how they want to be a pass catcher like Woody Marks. Brian Jackson said, I tried to get as much information out of Woody as I could before he left, but I think that's something where all of those 3 it's not the main component of their game. And don't get me wrong, Woody Marks is kind of unique in that regard, but they're trying to evolve their game so that they can be a dual threat in Lincoln Riley's offense.
Yeah, it's Brian Jackson has the most carries on this football team, or the most experience in a Cardinal and gold jersey, and he has less than 40 touches. That's a little concerning, but then you look at the 2 transfer guys. Wayman Jordan, I'm a big fan. Go watch his tape at Hutchinson Community College, and you can argue, okay, it's a JUCO. He's not playing against great talent. His game is going to translate. I promise you that. He's a very good football player. We had him on the show last week. Eli Sanders, another guy from New Mexico, I thought was a very good football player, averaged over 7 yards a carry. So I know there's some concern with that running back room and who's going to be the guy, but I feel like we're going to be in good hands, and who's going to be that next transfer guy to step up like we had with Woody Marks, like we had with Travis Dye, all these guys that keep stepping up and becoming that new running back here at USC.
Sean, my big theory that I sort of posited at the end of last year and now really can't wait to see how it plays out, is a pared down receiver room will actually be more productive. To me, it looks like an NFL room right now. Jacoby Lane, Mekhi Lemon, 2 different types of receivers. They should get a lot of balls and a chance to really grow into a game instead of shuttling guys in and out.
Yeah, and it won't be about how many touches does everybody get. We're going to, they'll get a lot of touches, I'm sure, next year. And then there's 2 of them, right? There, you can, you can't just, if you're a defense, you can't just focus on one guy because both guys have skills that are, like you said, that are different. And then you have that third position. We'll probably have to find out. Maybe Prince, maybe some other young guys that get a chance.
Third feels open, really open.
And might I add, don't count out the tight ends. That's a group that so far in spring camp has been getting a lot of praise. They're also kind of the most experienced, which is interesting. So don't count them out, especially with Chad Savage now as their coach.
Yeah, and I like Jaden Richardson, transferred from Tufts a couple of years ago. Prince Strong's going to be a very good player, but I'm going to go on record now and say that third guy that's going to step up is Xavier Jordan. I love the way that he plays. Played well last year in the spring game and kind of got buried on that depth chart, but I think he's going to be a guy that steps up big this year at the receiver spot.
Well, we didn't get to offensive line, but again, for the full preview, you can check out the Victory podcast with Keely and Cody. I'm sure they got into that and then some. We'll do the defense next week.